Hey, how's it going, everyone? And welcome to the FilmSpeak channel. I'm, of course, your host, Griffin, where we like to say the conversation continues after the credits. And today we're going to be having a great conversation about WandaVision, Marvel Studios' first foray into television. And we're going to be talking about the premiere of episodes 1 and 2. At the moment of this recording, I don't believe they have titles or names or whatever, so it's just going to be episode 1 and episode 2. The first 2 episodes of the show dropped on Disney Plus this Friday, and we're going to talk about it. But before we go any further, be sure to jump down in the comment section and let us know what your thoughts on the first 2 episodes were. Do you enjoy the show so far? Do you like the vibe they're sort of going for? What are your thoughts, your theories, all that good stuff? So let's have a great conversation down there as well. And if you could, it would be amazing if you liked this video, shared it around so we can get the conversation rolling even more, and subscribe to the FilmSpeak channel so you don't miss out on more WandaVision coverage. Trust me, guys, we got a lot coming your way. More video essays, movie reviews, all that good stuff. There's a lot around here, so you're definitely in the right place. So consider subscribing to the channel. And of course, I don't do these alone. I am joined by Elliott from Movie Files. Elliott, how's it going, man?
It's going great, man. The MCU is back. Wanda and Vision are kicking off the Phase 4, and what a direction Marvel's headed into, man. Excited to talk about it.
Yeah, it'll be Infinite Mandalorian, just right back in to Disney Plus, everything with WandaVision. And let's start with episode 1. Obviously, start at the beginning. What were your overall thoughts of this first episode?
So I was like a kid on Christmas when the intro of the MCU came back, because I was a little nervous. With The Mandalorian, we got a different intro than Star Wars that we normally see, and I'm just thinking maybe they'll just kick right into the show, right? But no, we get the classic MCU showing off all the history, all of our favorite characters. Yeah. And then comes the WandaVision intro theme. And then comes the laugh track of the 50s of I Love Lucy. It's just, I was just sucked into it, just kind of seeing these characters again. Because last time we saw Wanda, she was at a funeral. So she wasn't as happy-go-lucky. And I mean, the last time we saw Vision, he was a dead man. His head was, he had a stone pulled out of his head by Thanos. So it was great to see these characters smiling and happy in a different setting, in black and white, no less. So I was like super invested into this intro. Just being back in the MCU, it feels right, it feels good, and I missed it.
Yeah, no, for real. It was, like we said in our, spoiler-free review of the first 3 episodes, seeing that Marvel Studios indent was, it got me really excited. I was like, I do miss the MCU. As much as I, will just spout off nonsense and be like, Marvel, there is something comforting about sitting down to watch a Marvel project, and this one was no different. Them jumping right into the intro of this episode it was great. The theme song is so good, dude, so good. And the way they keep kind of like tailoring it to the different shows they're trying to emulate as they go through the episodes is just nothing short of brilliant. So yeah, man, it was really delightful. Like I said in my spoiler-free review, I had a smile on my face from the moment this thing started. Oh, yeah. And it did not leave. And the thing I really liked about this first episode, and this first episode out of the first 3 episodes might have been my favorite. I don't know. Interesting. There was just something really pure and like straightforward about it. It's not going to blow anyone's minds because it is like very much just traditional, like WandaVision trying to domesticate sitcom, that whole thing. Like the basic introduction to the show, and it was just so fun to watch that. Just watch them like interact and live the phase. The intro kind of closes out, and we see Wanda in the kitchen. She's just using all of her magic to like move dishes and clean up around the house. And obviously, we got the practical effects with the dishes. And then Vision walks in and he like breaks the thing on his head, and he's like, "Whoa!" And
the laugh track kicks in.
The laugh track, like it's so good, man. It was just like, what? Like, this is so charming.
That's the perfect word to describe it. It's definitely charming. It's so tongue in cheek. It knows what it's trying to emulate in regards to the 50s and paying homage to those amazing iconic shows, and then just kind of transitioning to it as they're celebrating a day that neither one of them know what they're celebrating. Is it an anniversary? Is it the day that they first met? They don't know, and the mystery of figuring out what that day means as we kind of go towards meeting the Hart family and his boss. And I just love just the whole setup of just Vision has a job. He's obviously a machine and can work at a much faster pace than the rest of the people that are involved in this moment. But it was just so fun just seeing different characters that we've come to love and know from the past previous MCU films, but just seeing them in this different setting and seeing this, what's going on, this alternate universe is, again, we'll talk into theories regarding what Wanda, is she under someone's power? Is she creating this herself? Is it really the Wanda that we knew within MCU thus far? But just kicking things off with this kind of tongue-in-cheek approach and the tone was just a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that was one of my favorite parts, was like Vision at work, like finishing all the work and then talking to his desk mate. He's just sort of, what do we do here exactly? And he's just like, he's just like, well, we do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, blah, blah, blah. And it was just, oh God, it's so funny. Like him, like one of the best parts about Vision is like how he's always tried to assimilate in some capacity. I mean, like in Civil War, we see like Vision entering a room through the wall wearing a sweater, and it's like he doesn't really know social cues or like etiquette and stuff like that, because I mean he's an android and he has to learn that stuff. And so placing him inside of a 50s workplace where he's just like, okay, I'm just doing what they're telling me to do, and like just trying to figure out how to interact with people is hilarious. And then obviously when the boss comes over and he's like, today is the day where we're gonna have dinner with you all, and that phone call between him and Wanda, oh my God, that was so funny. The misunderstanding, it was great. That
was like, and Nick at Night, as Kevin Feige said, this brings back memories of watching Nick at Night. They hit that tone and that kind of just husband and wife meeting the boss. The boss brings his wife over. And even before that, I guess we'll talk about, Catherine Hahn's character as Agnes, who just comes in and just immediately you're just invested in her character. And just, she plays that next door neighbor, the nosy next door neighbor, so perfectly. But it's just the classic sitcom of a night of a odd couple per se, and just seeing the absurdity of going down that night. It was like literally a perfect episode of I Love Lucy.
Oh yeah, no, it really was. Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up Catherine Hahn. I'll be singing the praises of her all season, because she was so funny in this episode. A lot of the comedy came from her and just like interacting with Wanda, and just like just like the way that they would talk back in like a 50s sitcom or something like that was
the conversation of how to have your preparing a dinner, and once the dinner's over, what happens, kind of the romance of Wanda and Vision, and Wanda's saying, oh, I know how to do that, but what does the magazine say in there of how to so many funny moments.
Oh yeah, I mean that's the thing about this first episode, is it's just like, it's very like minute problems. It's like domestic issues. It's like they've never had this life before, so it's like, how would they know this? And they don't know how they got here. They don't know, when they were married and all this stuff. And so it sort of like starts to cause a rift in the system, which we'll get to a little bit later on. But yeah, I think my favorite part is when Vision comes home with his boss and his boss's wife, and like the lights are all off, and then like Wanda just comes up and she's like, I'm ready for you, like, or whatever.
Her lingerie.
The lingerie, and he's just like, oh my God. And it's the classic like overreaction that you would see in those kind of situations. It was great.
Perfect. It's how they say hello in Sokovia, and I love, again, tying into Sokovia. We know that she's from Sokovia, and just like, she's exotic. Oh, she's from Europe. Oh, this is cool, honey. Perfect.
No, it was so funny. And I think one of the things that really sells that is, I mean, obviously Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany's chemistry, but Paul Bettany again, like, is playing into a lot of like just the physicality of these moments, and just like the frantic nature of the situation that's going on. He's like, oh God, this is my career is on the table. We have to impress him. Like, you need to make a dinner and all that stuff. And so like, seeing him trying to entertain his boss and his wife while Wanda's trying to cook the dinner. It was so good. He's playing like a little
Lucy all over again, man. It was just seeing that emulate that was just so perfect to me.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like I think there's so many moments, I think, where you could tell that like, obviously like the actors are like waiting for a cue to go someplace, but then like there are moments where I think Paul Bettany is definitely ad-libbing a lot, or like Elizabeth Olsen is ad-libbing in the kitchen a lot, and it's it just makes the energy on set really feel like powerful. And so that was one of the things. And this was the episode that was filmed in front of a live studio audience, and I feel like you felt that for sure. You felt the effects of that.
It was again. I envy those people that were able to see that live action, but no, it fit the tone so perfectly to have that laugh track and have those live audience members there. Just kind of again sets the mood, sets the tone, and it was just a nice cherry on top of this like really good intro episode.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. And then obviously with Wanda, she continues trying to make the dinner and everything's just going wrong. And Agnes, I was going to call her Agatha, but obviously it is. But
Yeah.
well, anyways, Agnes comes in and she comes in to save the day with all the food and stuff. She's like, "Oh, just follow these recipes." Just that like little interaction is great. And then watching Wanda, who has never cooked a meal like this before, like try and figure out how to use her powers to cook the meal. Like, again, a nice callback to when they were trying to cook together Civil War. There's a lot. Yeah, exactly. I think that's, again, like we haven't gotten a lot of Wanda and Vision in the MCU on screen together, but like the moments that we do get of them like really stand out, and their chemistry is very palpable. And here, them sort of playing off of this like screwball dinner gone wrong is just it's perfect.
It was so great. And going back to Agnes and the Hart family, a couple of things that were kind of brought up in regards to, again, is Wanda creating this reality? Where did you come from? How did you guys meet? Do you have kids? And again, Wanda is taking this checklist of like, oh, wait, that's not normal. Oh, we should probably have kids. And as we see as the episode with them officially getting married, them having creating the ring. So again, it sets up this tone and this idea of Wanda growing up in this Sokovia homes where she sees her parents die in front of her and her brother in the bathtub, not knowing if they're going to die or not. And again, it plays into, is this reality created from her as a child? These were shows that she watched in Sokovia when things were going on and there was a war going on outside her house. Or is this Wanda? Did she watch these shows when her and her brother were experimented on by, our character that we meet in the MCU? So it's just really interesting to see where things are going to be headed. And then we can't miss that commercial, man. The Tony Stark, the toaster maker, the Tony the 3000.
Yeah, the Tony Stark, the toaster maker 3000 or whatever.
So
the long pause waiting for it to finish toasting. So
I love the little hint too of Tony, like his Iron Man suit of when he does his blaster and how the toast maker had that. Just a little detail like that was so great.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. Yeah, the commercial breaks in all three of these episodes was fantastic, but definitely in this first one, it was funny. And then they sit down and they have dinner, and then like the tone starts to shift when they're being questioned by the Harts, and Mr. Hart begins choking on something randomly, sort of like a glitch in the Matrix, if you will. And then Vision has to save him. The dinner ends, and they just kind of like walk out, and then they're married. But yeah, I don't know. What did you make of that? And the sort of like the moment where we sort of realize what we're watching is just a projection. It's not reality.
It was so weird to see that scene and so interesting at the same time, because it was almost like, okay, he's choking on some food or whatever. And as soon as he comes back, he almost forgets what just happened, or just plays into like, okay, we need to bleed normal and nothing just happened. Vision, great job, and give you the promotion. It was like you said, a glitch in the Matrix. It was kind of like a reset button, because I think even Wanda at the dinner table says, Vision, help him. And she says there's something, this isn't right, or something of nature. So again, it plays into, she sees all these cues. We don't have kids. We haven't been married yet. Okay, now that next time, I'm going to whatever she's doing with her mind, if it is her under control, I'm going to make sure that we don't have those issues again. And we're going to have a kid. We're going to be married in the next decade, as we kind of see her kind of warping reality. And who knows what those ramifications are doing outside of this. And goes into Doctor Strange. She's messing with the reality. She's resetting things constantly. And who knows what the ramifications of her doing that is.
Yeah, no, for sure. All right, anything else I guess you want to add in regards to episode 1? It was really straightforward, really breezy. I mean, it's like watching an episode of, again, like we said for a million times, I Love Lucy or something like that. There's not a whole lot to really dig into.
Yeah. The only thing that comes to mind is we saw someone, again, as the camera pans out in an episode, it seems like someone was taking almost like show notes of like, okay, these things to kind of fix, things to kind of work on, things to kind of tweak, almost like a Truman Show, like they were being observed. And very interesting kind of ending to end the episode, and no post-credit scene. But, I was kind of like, oh, it's going to give us like the traditional post-credit scene. But there are people watching Wanda. She's under supervision. She's under some type of surveillance, and it'll be interesting to see who those people are. Is it Sword? Is it S.H.I.E.L.D.? Is it someone else entirely? Can't wait to find out. Yeah,
for sure. And then as we see in episode 2, it is Sword, I believe. Like we get like very heavy hints that Sword is involved there, especially yeah, and that we'll explore that more in episode 3. But yeah, no, again, really great opening episode, really light, really breezy. I'm happy this wasn't the only episode they premiered, because I think if it was the only episode they premiered, it'd be a little. I mean, as much as I liked it, it would have been just like, okay, cool, all right, that's what it is, all right. Hoping for a little bit more. I'm glad that they're premiering the first 2 episodes, because the second one, like both of those episodes go together really, really well. And the second one gives us a little bit more towards the end, along with some really funny moments as well. But let's talk about episode 2, because episode 2 starts off and it's almost like a Bewitched, kind of thing there, with Vision and Wanda in the beds, and like they hear something out in the tree, they're like freaking out. I don't know, it was that was also another one of my favorite parts of this entire the entire 3 episodes we've seen.
It was really cool to see, like you just mentioned. Yeah, we're in another decade. We're in the Bewitched era. We even get the intro of the Bewitched, of everything, of Wanda and Vision and all their crazy things. One thing that I was slightly happy about was, compared to the first episode, which was, I believe, only 26 minutes if you don't count the credits. So this one being 33 minutes, get to spend more time with Wanda and Vision, which was something I was looking forward to. But just that opening alone, again, plays into seeing, characters of the absurdity of what's outside. You go outside. You go. And of course, we know they're both superheroes, that they, whatever's outside, they can probably take on with ease. But just again, them playing to normal suburban couple that don't have superpowers, so they have to act like they're normal.
Right. Well, they have to hide. They're like, oh, someone's like vandalizing this stuff out there, and they're like talking about their ability to like walk through walls, or like maneuver, like levitate objects or whatnot. And they're like, oh yeah, they're the vandals, right? And I don't know, again, just some really great snappy dialogue in there from the two of them. And then my favorite part is when like they bring the beds together, and then it's like snap, it becomes one bed, and they were like, oh, and then they do the classic, like, oh, we're gonna bang each other and everything. It was just it was like just really funny to see the MCU just go that way. I was like, oh, this is nice. This is fun. But yeah, the gist of this whole episode is that they're trying to, continue assimilating into this suburban town by, making friends with like the women who are in charge of like planning things and who can like help your kids get into schools and whatever. And then also like, doing their civic duty, like putting on this magic show for like, charity or something like that. I forget.
The community talent show for the kids, which again points towards the kids. Normal. Why don't you guys have kids? And that pushes the, obviously we see at the end of the episode, Wanda's pregnant.
She got kids. They get kids. Yeah, they do get kids. Yeah, and then I loved how like she was trying to getting good with like the ladies of the neighborhood, and then Vision went off to the neighborhood watch and was like trying to become friends with the guys and everything. There's so many like great lines in there when they're interacting. I think I love when Vision goes to the neighborhood watch thing, and they're all like, well, new business, we're still eating Danishes and everything, and then they're all like going around telling jokes, and he's like, well, this guy's a communist, and it's just like it's like, what, like all this stuff's coming out of nowhere, and it was just like really funny.
It plays again too. I haven't seen a ton of episodes of Bewitched, but it plays into, like you just mentioned, seeing the main character of Bewitched, the wife, kind of simulate herself with the norm, the people around town. They don't want the people, her neighbors, they don't want to know that she's a witch. They hide they suppress their powers. They want to just fit in a normal way, which plays again into them paying homage to the different decades that they're going into. But even again, going back to this little Easter eggs, Wanda finding that helicopter in the tree branch. So is that, are we assuming that's something trying to get into the portal? Is that something that, it's going on outside of the portal? So even those little, and again, it hinges on a little bit of horror, a little bit like when Wanda's realizing this isn't right. Something's going on now. I love those little moments throughout the episode.
Yeah, no, for sure. And the great use of color. I mean, a lot of that reminded me of Pleasantville for sure, obviously. But again, just like her sort of starting to realize that the reality she's created is deteriorating, and like her effort trying to see even more. Like even later when she's interacting with like the ladies of the town and everything, and trying to like be accepted amongst them, and like she hears the radio calling her name and stuff like that, and if I'm not mistaken, that sounded like Randall Park, like his character.
That's what I put
right?
down in my notes. I'm pretty sure that that's Randall Park. I believe is John Woo, if I'm not mistaken, in the comics, or at least in the MCU, who he's portraying. And I'm pretty sure that was his voice. Pretty confident in that.
Yeah, for sure. And we know he's in the show, and obviously that sort of lends more credence to the fact that like the FBI is there. We see Monica Rambeau in this episode. We don't know she's Monica Rambeau, but we know the actress is playing Monica Rambeau, and so it's Monica Rambeau. And I believe we see like her sword emblem somewhere. She's like wearing it on a necklace or something. That comes into play in episode 3, but definitely we get a taste of it here. And so it's like there's outside forces trying to come in and like, you know, figure out what's going on with Wanda and all that stuff. But that was creepy, you know, like when the voice comes through the radio and the glass breaks in her hand, she's just like, oh, the blood's on her hand and everything. I don't know. It was really effective.
It really, again, it just is. And again, Wanda's, whenever there's a glitch, whenever there's something that's a little bit off, again, she kind of takes a step back and wants to, again, as we know from the next episode, try to correct her wrongs within the previous decade. And also, again, I can't applaud them enough for the commercials. We get the Strucker, the watch, which is a great callback, because we didn't spend but 2 scenes with the guy from the end of Civil War, and then, or I should say, Winter Soldier, experimenting and creating Wanda and her brother, you know, and that's the last time. So it makes me kind of think, does he have anything to do with this? Again, we assume that he was killed by, you know, Ultron. We just saw the smear of blood and heard that he died. But, you know, we know the rule. If you don't see them die on camera, they might still be out there. Or is Wanda, is she still in that room of experiments? And she's like, this is another kind of alternate version of Wanda, of how she, you know, maybe this is a flashback of even the events of Endgame. So something to think about there.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, the Strucker watch, to me, the commercials represent the core pieces of what has tormented her. So it's like Stark, first of all, her family was murdered and her brother hid in a bathtub because of Stark missiles. Baron von Strucker experimented on them and like, you know, turned them into weapons. And so in the second episode, we get the commercial, the Strucker watch. I'm not going to reveal what's in the third episode, but it's kind of on that similar line of thinking of like, okay, this was sort of a, you know, a piece of trauma that came up in her life. And so we're going to incorporate it in this like cutaway, this commercial. And so I have a feeling that the commercials are going to add up to be something very important here. Sort of just like the pillars of the stuff that has tormented Wanda her whole life.
I can't wait for the Thanos commercial, because we know that he played a big part in that.
The gauntlet oven mitts.
Yes, I can't wait to see what that commercial looks like. But no, again, like you just mentioned, man, there's so many different Easter eggs and so many things to kind of look into the greater good of the MCU. And that was one of the, I guess, fears for a lot of people when Marvel brought up, or Kevin Feige said that it is not required, but it would be smarter you to kind of watch the shows, because it ties into the greater MCU and can obviously tie into what we know with Doctor Strange, or what we think we know of Doctor Strange, into the multiverse. So it's one of those things where if you're a comic book writer or a comic book reader, you saw the movies, you understood the Easter eggs, but then this show is its own medium, because now we've seen the films, and now we can look at, as film watchers and comic book watchers, like even more Easter eggs and things that we can appreciate if we've been on the journey for that long, for what they've given us so far. So I love just all the little attention to detail that Marvel's given us so far.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk about the actual magic show, because I thought that was a great little bit of slapstick comedy. Again, Paul Bettany gets to play into the physicality of this. Obviously, when he was at the neighborhood watch meeting, he chews the gum, and then I love the little cutaway to the 2D animation of the gum going down and like, you know,
messing up,
slowing down. Yeah, slowing down the gears, slowing down the system, just like alcohol would do to a human. And so he basically becomes drunk, and he performs this whole magic show drunk. And he's like, well, you guys don't want to see this. It's like, you want to know how it's done, and, you know, stuff like that. And again, kind of alluding to some deeper things going on there, I think, subtly, not too pertinent, but, you know, hinting. Anyways, but yeah, him going through magic show and just like his crazy antics, I thought it was actually really enjoyable and funny.
And again, me just being like such a MCU fan, I was like, those names sound so familiar. And I haven't read their comics, but I guess back in the 70s, there were actually characters named Glamour and Illusion that were a couple that were doing these magic tricks. And that was like their abilities to be able to do magic. So I love, again, the little Easter eggs of the comic books there is of Glamour and Illusion being comic book characters, and
Yeah.
having Vision and Wanda play those characters was so much fun.
Yeah, it was great. And like seeing Wanda like freaking out like every time like Vision does something with his powers, like trying to like, make it so that there's a logical explanation behind why he's doing all of this stuff. Yeah, and obviously it goes well. And they get the funny thing is they get the trophy for like best comedy duo or whatever, which was great. And it's like, oh, we're finally accepted into this society because we're funny. Yeah, and it was all well. It was all great. And then they go home. And it's like, oh, another day of just like crazy domestication in the town. They start talking together, and like we the wall pregnant, but then something else happens. This Vision starts to go somewhere. He's like, oh, if it's that thing outside, I'm gonna, whatever. And then they walk outside. The camera angles change. The type of cinematography alters just a little bit. The shots and whatnot. And we see someone come out of a manhole. We don't really see his face, but we know that it is someone with these, this getup or whatever, like a hazmat suit or something. Mm-hmm. What did you make of that?
That again, there's people that are trying to infiltrate whatever Wanda has kind of created this again, because we hear through, if we're assuming this is Randall Park's character, Wanda, what's going on? Who's doing this to you? It seems like they're trying to figure out what's going on again, whether it is a reveal that, Monica Rambeau, or she goes by Geraldine, how she got into this portal, how she was able to, bring herself into this world that Wanda has created, if it is indeed Wanda. So to me, it's just another example of Sword trying to infiltrate Wanda's mind, this universe, and tries to see who created this, what's going on, how can we pull them out, how can we maybe get people in? Because even, in further episodes, it seems like these people are maybe hired to just act normal, to play into what Wanda has created. So it's really interesting to see that moment there. Again, it goes back to the kind of the horror vibes. It got really kind of got weird and kind of really trippy. And then we end the episode, obviously, with from black and white, and we kind of translate into color finally.
I feel like all of the people in this society that they've moved to are just like creations of Wanda's own imagination. The only one I'm not entirely sure about is Agnes. She's the one who I think is like a real person in there. And I think there's like some way that she's manipulating, Wanda for sure. Because like, obviously Wanda and Vision did not really have kids. Wanda's magic manifested and was able to create her 2 kids that she's now pregnant with. And the reason I know it's 2 is because from the comics, she has twins. So yeah, I don't know. It is just like Agnes's role in this whole thing is still very vague, and maybe she's just nothing but a nosy neighbor, but I don't know. I feel like she's sort of up to something. There's something like I can't quite trust her just yet.
Yeah, and again, there are, precedents and comments of Wanda having some type of deal with the witch to have kids, and to, there's a certain amount of sacrifice of doing so. So again, are we assuming that that's Agnes' character making some type of deal with the devil per se, with Wanda having this alternate reality and having this world of happiness with Vision? So it does open up the doors to, again, is this all Wanda's doing of creating this reality, this false reality? Is there some type of deal in place? Was there an alternate version of Vision? Did she take Vision from another alternate universe? We all know when you have characters like Thanos, Gamora, and Nebula that were taken out of their world, what kind of destructive nature did that do to them? So I don't know if Wanda, she went to another alternative universe and pulled that Vision out, wiped his memory clean because he's a computer. Who knows, man? I just can't wait to see what the reveals are in this show and what is going on with Wanda.
Yeah, I mean that's ultimately the big question here for sure. Well, and that's the other thing. Whenever someone is on to something, and we see this in this episode, she like something weird happens and then she reverse it, want to play differently.
Yeah.
So it's very, very interesting. A lot of weird stuff on there, and then obviously the end of the episode we are now transitioning into color.
Color. Oh yeah,
very exciting stuff.
70s potentially, yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. So there you have it, guys. Those are our thoughts on the first 2 episodes of WandaVision. Elliot, was there anything else you wanted to add before we close this out?
No, again, this is just getting me really excited to see the ramifications of, like you just said, when Wanda's resetting these. We went from the 50s, we're now into the 60s. What is that doing to the outside world? Is she warping reality? Is she affecting the multiverse? Is that how we get a Tobey Maguire into a Spider-Man 3? Is that how we have a Deadpool? Or a great explanation of X-Men or Fantastic Four in this universe to me is they've been around the whole time. They're just in another multiverse. So again, is Wanda resetting these timelines? Is it affecting the multiverse and how we're going to get some of these other characters into the movies of the MCU and enter Doctor Strange? So
Yeah,
can't
for
wait,
sure.
man. Can't wait.
Yeah, I know. It's just nice of what's come. And again, as I said, in our full review of our non-spoiler review and everything, I'm just loving everything they're doing here. And these 2 episodes are great companion pieces. But again, guys, the most important thing is we want to hear from you all, and we want to know your thoughts on episode 1 and 2 of WandaVision down in the comments section below. Let's have a great discussion about the season premiere of the series. Elliot, thank you as always for joining me. Where can everyone find you?
Yeah, no doubt, man. Again, I'm so happy the MCU's back, everyone. But no, guys, you can find me here on YouTube at Movie Files, talking about shows and movies, and then on the Instagram at Movie Files, and on Twitter at Movie Files Live.
Yeah, and you can also catch him back here every Thursday or Friday. Whenever they drop the episodes, we'll be doing recaps of WandaVision weekly, so you can look out for our recap of episode 3 next week, and so on and so forth. If you haven't done so already, be sure to like FilmSpeak on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, just search FilmSpeak, and if you like me specifically and you like what I have to say, follow on Twitter at Groove Schiller. All right. That's going to do it for this recap and review of WandaVision, episode 1 and 2, and we'll catch you back here for the recap and review of episode 3. But until then, take care.